Imagine a world where you can't trust your eyes or your ears anymore.
Hmm.
Where a video, maybe of a politician saying something absolutely outrageous,
Yeah.
or uh, a voice recording of your CEO authorizing a massive money transfer,
Right.
you'd be completely fabricated.
Yeah.
But chillingly realistic.
Yeah.
That's not science fiction these days. It's a rapidly evolving reality.
It really is.
So today we're doing a deep dive into this rapid proliferation of deepfake technology.
Okay.
We're going to be unpacking a really comprehensive, pivotal report. It's titled Deepfakes, Misinformation and Mitigation.
Mm-hmm.
And it meticulously lays out the technical stuff, the underpinnings.
Yeah, the nuts and bolts.
Exactly. And the disturbing real-world weaponization and, the profound systemic societal impacts of this truly paradigm-shifting development.
And our mission here really is to equip you with the essential knowledge that we've distilled from this crucial report.
Okay.
We'll look at not just, what deepfakes are, but how they're made.
Right, the mechanics.
The mechanics, exactly, where they're being weaponized, sometimes with devastating effect, and crucially, what's actually being done, on multiple fronts to try and counter them.
Okay.
We want you, the listener, to walk away from this deep dive not feeling overwhelmed because it is complex.
It definitely is.
But well-informed and with a much clearer, maybe even actionable understanding of this really complex and, frankly, fast-moving digital threat.
All right, let's peel back the layers then. Let's unpack this incredible report. So let's start right at the beginning, the fundamental question.
Yeah.
What exactly is a deepfake? It's way more than just Photoshop on steroids or some simple video editing trick, right? The report makes a very clear distinction.
Exactly. The report is very precise in its definition. It says a deepfake is basically any form of media. It could be video, audio, image, even text.
Text too.
Yes, even text. That appears authentic, believable, right? Yet it's been generated or significantly manipulated using sophisticated AI, specifically deep learning methodologies.
The deep part.
That's the critical differentiator from what people sometimes call cheap fakes.
Okay, explain cheap fakes briefly.
Well, think of it like this. A cheap fake might involve just, say, slowing down a video clip to make someone seem drunk.
Right, simple manipulation.
Or taking a quote completely out of its original context. It relies on basic editing, selective presentation, often stuff you can detect if you look closely. Deepfakes, though, they leverage powerful neural networks to synthesize entirely new content or, seamlessly alter existing media in ways that are exceptionally difficult for our eyes and ears to catch.
So they're creating hyper-realistic fabrications, maybe from scratch.
Yeah.
Or blending things perfectly.
Exactly. It's not just tweaking. It's a revolutionary kind of digital creation and deception.
So the deep in deepfake really does refer to deep learning, the AI driving it.
Precisely.
But, okay, it's not all doom and gloom, is it? I mean, this technology, for all its obvious dangers, actually has some genuinely fascinating, even positive applications. The report does highlight some benign uses that are almost breathtaking.
Absolutely. And the report takes care to highlight these beneficial uses actually across a surprising range of industries.
Like what?
Well, for instance, in entertainment, deepfake techniques are being used to de-age actors. Really stunning, believable realism.
Oh, right. So actors can play younger versions of themselves without tons of makeup.
Exactly. Or even to posthumously complete performances for beloved artists who passed away, which is quite remarkable, for preserving artistic legacies.
Wow. Okay.
And in commerce, you see innovative stuff like virtual clothing try-ons.
So I can see how a shirt looks on me without actually trying it on.
Right. Revolutionizing online retail. For communication, the tech can synthesize speech, make it look like someone is authentically speaking another language, perfect lip sync and all.
That could break down language barriers.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
Facilitating more natural international dialogue. And critically, in medicine,
Medicine.
synthetic data generation. It helps train highly sensitive diagnostic AI models without compromising real patient privacy.
Ah, so you get the data without the ethical concerns.
Precisely. Crucial for ethical data handling in healthcare research. However, and this is the big caveat the report makes.
Okay.
While these legitimate uses are advancing rapidly, they are, unfortunately, increasingly overshadowed by the technology's inherent capacity for profound malice and, frankly, widespread misuse.
Right. The darker side. Which brings us to where the term actually came from. Because this is where the story gets really interesting and, honestly, a little unsettling right from the start.
It is.
You might assume deepfake came out of, I don't know, a university research lab or some corporate innovation hub.
That would be the logical assumption, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but the report tells a very different story about its origin, one that immediately casts a kind of shadow over its reputation.
Indeed. The term deepfake was actually coined in late 2017. And not by a scientist, but by an anonymous user on Reddit.
Reddit, seriously?
Yes, this user, who went by the pseudonym Deepfakes, started sharing AI-generated pornographic videos. And the key, the truly nefarious aspect, was that these videos superimposed the faces of female celebrities onto existing sexually explicit content, critically without their consent.
Horrifying.
This extremely unfortunate origin immediately and, inextricably linked the technology with predatory intent and non-consensual exploitation right from its very inception.
So the name itself is rooted in abuse.
Pretty much. And as the term gained viral traction, the media, the public, we all quickly adopted it, started applying it broadly to all sorts of synthetic media made with deep learning.
Which raised awareness, I guess. That seems good.
Well, yes and no. While this widespread use has definitely succeeded in raising public awareness of the potential for digital deception, which sounds like a positive outcome, right?
Right.
The report explains that this very awareness has a strange, almost paradoxical, and deeply concerning effect.
How so?
Because the public is now so familiar with the idea that any video or audio could be fabricated or manipulated, it has perversely become easier for malicious actors to dismiss authentic but inconvenient content by simply crying, deepfake.
Ah, I see. If you're caught doing something bad on video, just claim it's fake.
Exactly. This dynamic, which the report later dives into as the liar's dividend, means that the very success of the term in highlighting the problem has inadvertently contributed to a broader erosion of trust in all digital media. It creates fertile ground for disinformation and deception to just flourish globally.
Okay, so this technology didn't just burst onto the scene overnight then. The report actually traces its roots back quite a way to pioneering academic experiments decades ago. Long before deepfake was even a word people used.
Oh.
What were some of those early steps?
That's absolutely right. The quest to synthetically generate or, convincingly alter human likenesses in media, it has a much longer history than most people realize.
Okay.
The report points to projects like Video Rewrite, developed back in 1997 at the University of Washington.
1997, wow.
Yeah. It was groundbreaking work for its time. It showed you could modify existing video footage of someone speaking, make them appear to mouth words from a totally different audio track.
So basically putting words in someone's mouth digitally.
Pretty much. It was one of the first systems to automate realistic facial reanimation using early machine learning. But, impressive as it was,
It wasn't perfect, I imagine.
far from it. These early efforts were often super labor-intensive, needed highly controlled environments, and the results, while notable, were still, visibly artificial, more proof of concept.
Right.
But the true point of no return for modern deepfake tech, the breakthrough that fundamentally changed the whole landscape, that's widely attributed to the 2014 invention by Ian Goodfellow and his colleagues, generative adversarial networks.
GANs. I've heard that term.
Universally known as GANs. This novel machine learning architecture became the sort of unparalleled engine behind that first wave of truly convincing modern deepfakes.
So tell us about these GANs. How does this adversarial game actually work? It sounds like something out of a complex strategy game. Or maybe even a spy novel with two competing agents trying to outsmart each other.
It's actually an incredibly ingenious concept, really quite elegant when you break it down. You basically have two distinct neural networks.
Okay, two AIs.
Two AIs constantly battling each other. It's a competitive zero-sum process, and they push each other to get better.
Okay.
First, you've got the generator. Its main job is to create new synthetic data, stuff that aims to mimic a real data set it's been trained on.
So if it sees lots of pictures of my face, it tries to make a new picture of my face.
Exactly. It attempts to produce a new artificial image of your face that looks incredibly real. Then you have the discriminator.
The opponent.
Think of this one as the highly discerning detective, or maybe a master art authenticator trying to spot fakes.
Okay, got it.
Its job is to look at a piece of data, could be a real picture from the training set, or a synthetic one from the generator, and try to figure out, is this genuine? Or is it a forgery?
So one makes fakes, the other tries to spot them.
Precisely. And this adversarial competition unfolds over countless cycles, often millions. The generator makes a fake. The discriminator gives immediate feedback basically saying, nope, still looks fake, or You're getting closer.
And the generator learns from that feedback.
Yes, it uses that feedback to meticulously adjust its internal settings, its parameters, to create an even more convincing fake next time.
But the discriminator is also learning.
Simultaneously, it's getting better and better at spotting the subtle giveaways, the tells of a forgery.
So they both improve constantly.
Exactly. This iterative refinement continues until the generator's creations become so realistic that the discriminator just can't reliably tell them apart from the real data anymore. They reach a state of sort of digital indistinguishability. This self-improving competitive dynamic is why GANs can produce such highly plausible, often stunning results. It makes them ideal for deepfake stuff like face swapping, detailed facial manipulation, or even synthesizing totally new photorealistic faces of people who don't even exist.
That's incredible.
But what's really important to understand for our context here is that GANs, while powerful, are inherently data hungry.
They need a lot of input.
A lot. They typically need hundreds, sometimes even thousands, of high-quality training images or video frames of the target person to really learn their unique characteristics.
Which explains why we see so many deepfakes of celebrities and politicians.
Precisely. Their images are widely available online in vast quantities. They're the easiest targets because the training data is already out there.
Okay, so just when we kind of started to wrap our heads around GANs and this whole adversarial game, the report introduces something new. Something potentially even more powerful and maybe more concerning for detection. Diffusion models. How are these different conceptually? And why do they pose an even bigger challenge for our ability to spot the fakes?
Diffusion models, yeah, they really do represent the next frontier in synthetic media generation. They're powering the incredibly impressive capabilities you see in modern tools like DALL-E 2, Midjourney, Stable Diffusion.
The ones that make images from text prompts.
Exactly those. And they operate on a fundamentally different principle than GANs. In some ways, it's more elegant.
How so?
Okay, imagine starting with a crystal clear, high-quality image. The process begins by systematically adding random visual noise to that training image.
Like static.
Exactly, gradually degrading it until it's completely obscure, just pure static. The model is then painstakingly trained to learn how to precisely reverse that process.
To clean it up again.
To take a noisy, abstract input and iteratively restore it, step by step, back to its original, clean, coherent state. By mastering this denoising process, the model effectively learns the deep underlying structure, textures, the compositional characteristics of the images it was trained on, not just how to copy them.
So it understands how images are built, not just what they look like.
In a sense, yes. Once it's fully trained, it can generate entirely new, original images, basically from scratch. It starts with a canvas of pure random noise, and guided by that text prompt, say, a photorealistic image of a politician giving a passionate speech. It progressively refines that noise, step by step, removing the distortion until a coherent, high-quality image emerges that matches the prompt's description.
So it's like teaching an artist how to paint. By first showing them how to meticulously unpaint a masterpiece down to the base layer, and then they can create literally anything just from a simple instruction. That feels like a really powerful shift.
Precisely. And this capability gives diffusion models several distinct advantages. They're often considered easier, more stable to train than GANs, which can be a bit finicky sometimes.
Okay.
And they are exceptionally good at tasks like in-painting.
In-painting, what's that?
That's where they can plausibly, seamlessly fill in missing or obscured parts of an existing image, which makes them incredibly potent tools for subtle manipulation, too.
Right, patching things up invisibly.
But here's the critical shift for detection and why they pose a greater challenge. Remember, GANs are essentially trained to replicate or mimic a specific data set, right?
Yeah.
So historically, detection algorithms looked for telltale errors in that replication, things like weird lighting, unnatural blinking, subtle distortions.
There's flaws in the copy.
Exactly. Diffusion models, however, are generating images from a kind of profound conceptual understanding derived from a prompt. This means detectors aren't just looking for flaws in a copy anymore. They're trying to spot the intrinsic artificialness in something that maybe never had an original counterpart to begin with.
Okay.
AI can now create entirely plausible photorealistic evidence of events that simply never occurred, based on nothing more than a text description. It's a fundamentally harder detection problem because it really blurs the lines of what a forgery even is when there's no original to compare it to.
So what does this all really mean for us then? Does it mean that this incredibly powerful technology isn't just locked away in the hands of major movie studios or government intelligence agencies anymore. The report talks about the democratization of deception.
This is perhaps the single most alarming and I'd say impactful trend the report highlights. To today's much more sophisticated, often intuitive interfaces. And this accessibility has been accelerated even further by a vibrant global community, hobbyists, developers, yes, even malicious actors who continuously test, refine, improve these open source tools. They share knowledge, contribute code. It leads to rapid evolution.
So the tools just keep getting better and easier to use.
Exactly. And this democratization of deception, as the report calls it, has vastly expanded the threat landscape. The ability to generate disruptive, harmful disinformation, which was previously reserved for actors with significant resources.
Like governments or large organizations.
Right. It's now potentially in the hands of a huge range of individuals and groups. This includes, individuals seeking to harass or defame others online, sophisticated criminal enterprises looking for new ways to commit fraud, political activists aiming to influence or disrupt public opinion.
It broadens the attack surface massively.
Fundamentally, this widespread availability pretty much ensures that the challenge of deepfakes will only continue to grow, likely exponentially, in scale and complexity. It makes it a ubiquitous threat, not just a niche one.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit more. Deepfakes aren't just some kind of nuisance or a weird internet novelty. They've quickly become a potent weapon. And the report clearly lays out three primary battlefronts where this technology is already being deployed, often with devastating effect. First up, political warfare and electoral interference. This feels like the most immediate, maybe the most dangerous impact to our democratic processes, doesn't it?
You're absolutely right. This is where we see the technology directly attacking the very integrity of democratic systems, really worldwide. Deepfakes are rapidly emerging as a powerful, insidious weapon for manipulating public opinion, disrupting democratic processes, and systematically eroding trust in political institutions and leaders.
How are they typically used in politics?
Well, the primary tactics involve fabricating incredibly real-looking evidence to create entirely false narratives.
For example?
Like producing hyper-realistic videos of politicians appearing to make inflammatory statements they absolutely never uttered.
Yeah.
Or concocting audio clips to manufacture non-existent scandals, oftentimes just days before a critical election.
To sway voters at the last minute.
Precisely. And the report gives some chilling real-world examples that illustrate this threat vividly. Take the 2023 Slovak election incident.
Okay, what happened there?
Just 2 days before their crucial parliamentary election, during a mandatory silence period, that's when campaign-related media coverage is strictly prohibited.
Right, to give voters time to reflect.
Exactly. A deeply deceptive audio recording surfaced and just went viral. The clip purported to capture Michal Jemečka. He was the popular leader of the pro-Western Progressive Slovakia party, supposedly discussing a plan to rig the election with a journalist.
It wasn't real.
He immediately and strenuously denied it. But despite that, the clip spread like wildfire across social media. Jemečka, who had actually been leading significantly in the polls just before the deepfake emerged, he ultimately lost the election by a narrow margin.
Wow.
This incident fueled widespread speculation that the deepfake might have been a decisive factor. It marked it as a truly alarming dawn of a new era of disinformation in electoral campaigns. It showed how a single, well-timed fabrication can potentially swing a whole national outcome.
That's absolutely terrifying. To think a simple audio clip could have such a direct, immediate impact on an entire national election. What about closer to home, say, here in the U.S.? We've certainly seen our share of digital manipulation, haven't we?
Indeed. The 2024 U.S. election cycle has already experienced multiple high-profile instances of deepfake deployment, showcasing these evolving tactics.
Like what?
Well, in one particularly notable case, an audio deepfake impersonating President Joe Biden.
I remember hearing about this.
Yeah, it was used in a widespread robocall campaign targeting thousands of New Hampshire residents, specifically instructing and encouraging them not to vote in the state's crucial primary election.
It's blatant voter suppression using AI.
Absolutely. Clear attempt. Separately, you've had fabricated images of former President Donald Trump, like one widely circulated showing him in a fabricated scuffle with police being used to manipulate public perception and sow discord.
So visual deepfakes too.
It demonstrates how deepfakes are increasingly sophisticated tools for creating false narratives that just erode trust in leaders and institutions.
And it's not just elections, right? The report mentions international conflict.
Yes, exactly. For instance, in Ukraine, back in March 2022, shortly after Russia's full-scale invasion, a crude but immediately impactful deepfake video of President Volodymyr Zelensky appeared online.
What did it show?
It showed him appearing to tell his soldiers to lay down their arms and surrender.
Oh, wow. That could be devastating for morale.
Hugely. Although it was quickly debunked by Ukrainian authorities, it powerfully demonstrated the potential for adversaries to use deepfakes as a potent tool of psychological warfare, aiming to demoralize troops so panic.
And it's not just national or international politics either, even local races.
That's right. In a 2022 mayoral race in Shreveport, Louisiana, a political action committee brazenly used AI to superimpose the incumbent mayor's face onto the body of an actor in a satirical, highly critical attack ad.
Seriously, in a local race?
Yeah, it was considered one of the very first documented uses of a deepfake in a U.S. local race. It really highlighted the acute vulnerability of local campaigns, which often lack the sophisticated resources or rapid response teams needed to effectively counter attacks like that.
Right, they don't have the budget or staff.
Exactly. So the cumulative impact across all these examples, it's a severe degradation of the political information ecosystem, a profound undermining of public trust in democratic processes. And it fosters this post-truth environment where objective facts are increasingly contested, leaving public discourse dangerously destabilized and polarized.
Okay, so beyond the political arena, which is clearly under massive attack, the report details how deepfakes are enabling an entirely new generation of incredibly sophisticated financial crime. This isn't just about spotting fake phishing emails anymore, is it? This sounds more like synthetic heists.
Yes, synthetic heists is a very apt term. These attacks really represent a paradigm shift in cybercrime. They move far beyond those impersonal phishing attempts to exploit the most fundamental element of human interaction, our trust in a familiar voice or face.
So they're targeting our basic human instincts.
Precisely. The corporate and financial sectors are facing a frightening evolution in social engineering. Criminals are increasingly using deepfake audio and video to execute these elaborate fraud schemes that can bypass traditional security measures.
Oh, the tactics.
They're chillingly effective, using AI-cloned voices of senior executives to authorize fraudulent wire transfers, for example.
So getting a call that sounds exactly like your boss telling you to send money.
Exactly. Or deploying deepfake video to circumvent biometric security protocols like facial recognition or those liveness detection tests during identity verification.
Wow, fooling the machines too.
Sometimes, yes. The $25 million video conference fraud in Hong Kong in 2024 is a landmark case. It sent shockwaves through the financial world, and it's meticulously detailed in the report.
25 million. What happened?
A finance worker at a multinational firm's Hong Kong office, he was duped into transferring over $25 million to fraudulent accounts. How? After participating in a video conference call with individuals he believed were the company's UK-based chief financial officer and other senior staff members.
But they weren't.
In a truly sophisticated deception, all other participants on that call, the supposed CFO, other team members, were in fact hyper-realistic deepfake recreations.
The entire meeting was fake except for him.
Exactly. The visual and auditory fidelity of these deepfakes was apparently convincing enough to override his own suspicions and prompt him to authorize 15 separate large transactions.
That is unbelievable.
It's a stark illustration of how our deeply ingrained trust in authority in just seeing someone's face on a screen can be short-circuited by compelling impersonations.
$25 million from one video call with a completely fabricated team. That's genuinely incredible, almost hard to believe. I also recall hearing about some very targeted voice scams even before that one, right?
Precisely. The report notes that the UK energy firm Voice Scam back in 2019 was one of the first major reported cases of deepfake audio fraud that really grabbed headlines and signaled this emerging threat.
What was the story there?
In that instance, the CEO of a UK-based energy firm was meticulously impersonated using voice cloning AI, the fake voice, which apparently even mimicked the CEO's subtle German accent and unique speech patterns.
That's specific. Wow.
Yeah. It called a senior manager and urgently instructed him to transfer $243,000 to a supposed Hungarian supplier for an immediate payment. The manager, believing the request was legitimate, Urgent.
He did it.
He complied without question. And then there was the $35 million Japanese firm heist in 2020.
$35 million.
Yeah, where a branch manager was deceived into transferring that staggering sum via a phone call from someone whose voice was synthetically generated to sound exactly like a senior company director.
These are huge amounts.
They really demonstrate this frightening paradigm shift in cybercrime. It moves beyond those impersonal, often easily identifiable phishing emails to become highly targeted, personalized, and profoundly psychologically manipulative attacks. By convincingly impersonating figures of authority, deepfakes can bypass or at least significantly weaken internal controls. They exploit our natural human tendency to comply with urgent, seemingly legitimate requests from superiors. This poses a critical, rapidly escalating, and increasingly sophisticated threat to businesses, financial institutions, really everyone worldwide.
Okay, so while the political and financial deepfakes certainly capture the headlines, the report reveals what is by far the most widespread and, well, arguably the most personally devastating application of this technology: non-consensual pornography. This section is truly heartbreaking, and the statistics you mentioned earlier are profoundly disturbing.
This is indeed what the report terms the ultimate violation, and the statistics are just stark, deeply alarming. A comprehensive 2023 report, cited here, found that of the more than 95,000 deepfake videos detected online, a staggering 98% were pornographic.
98%.
And furthermore, this insidious form of abuse is overwhelmingly gendered. Studies consistently indicate that 99% of individuals targeted in deepfake pornography are women and girls.
99%. That's almost exclusively targeting women. How does it work?
The mechanism is horrifyingly simple, unfortunately. Perpetrators use widely available, often innocuous photographs of victims typically sourced from public social media profiles.
Just normal photos people post online.
Exactly. And they leverage deepfake software to seamlessly superimpose their faces onto existing sexually explicit videos or images. The resulting content, though entirely fabricated, can look indistinguishable from reality, especially to a casual viewer. This allows for rapid, convincing dissemination.
So it looks real even though it's completely fake.
And this practice represents what legal scholars have tragically called the next act in the saga of revenge porn.
But there's a difference, isn't there?
Yes, there's a critical, terrifying distinction here. Unlike traditional revenge porn, the perpetrator of a deepfake does not need access to any authentic, private, or explicit material belonging to the victim.
Wait, really?
Any person with a publicly available photograph can potentially become a target. This dramatically expands the pool of potential victims and removes a key barrier that existed with previous forms of image-based sexual abuse.
That's a profound difference.
Yeah.
It means the vulnerability is just far more widespread, affecting potentially anyone with any kind of digital footprint. What are the lasting impacts on the victims of this kind of digital harassment? It must be horrific.
The psychological and social harm inflicted on victims is immense. It's multifaceted and often incredibly lasting. Survivors consistently report experiencing profound feelings of humiliation, intense shame, anger, overwhelming anxiety, severe depression, often leading to social withdrawal and isolation.
It destroys their sense of self.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And the trauma is cruelly compounded by the viral, indelible nature of the internet. The fabricated content can be shared indefinitely across countless platforms. It makes victims feel utterly powerless to stop its spread.
Constant re-victimization.
Exactly. Leading to continuous re-traumatization with each new view, share, or mention. This relentless digital harassment can culminate in severe real-world consequences. Irreparable damage to personal and professional reputations, job loss, social ostracization, and, in the most extreme, tragic cases, even suicidal ideation.
Oh my God.
And a significant, often overlooked barrier to recovery is a pervasive fear of not being believed.
By family, friends, police.
Yes, by family, employers, friends, even law enforcement, which can tragically prevent victims from seeking the vital help and support they desperately need.
That Taylor Swift case earlier this year really brought this into focus, didn't it?
It absolutely did. The Taylor Swift case in early 2024 really brought this devastating reality into the global spotlight. Fabricated sexually explicit deepfake images of her went viral on X, spreading with alarming speed.
How fast?
These images got more than 45 million views and hundreds of thousands of reposts within just 17 hours, before the platform was even able to effectively shut them down.
17 hours. 45 million views.
The high-profile nature of the victim ignited a firestorm of public outrage, galvanized urgent calls for comprehensive legal and regulatory reform worldwide. Similarly, you see the ongoing targeting of prominent Twitch streamers like QT Cinderella and other online content creators.
Mostly women, I assume?
Yes, it underscores how women who are public figures in digital spaces are frequent, vulnerable targets, and it highlights the significant legal and practical challenges victims face in identifying anonymous perpetrators or pursuing effective action against the hosting sites that facilitate this abuse.
So it's not just one type of attack happening at a time, then. This report suggests these distinct threats, political, financial, personal, can actually combine into something even more potent. That must make defense incredibly difficult.
Exactly. The report thoroughly details how deepfakes aren't merely single-purpose weapons. They can be leveraged in sophisticated, multi-pronged attacks.
Hybrid attacks.
Right. The distinct domains of weaponization, political manipulation, financial fraud, personal harassment, they're not isolated threats operating in silos. A more sophisticated, frankly terrifying analysis reveals their potential convergence into these hybrid attacks. They can achieve multiple malicious objectives simultaneously, amplifying their impact far beyond the sum of their individual parts.
Can you give an example?
Imagine, for instance, a deepfake video depicting a female political candidate in a fabricated, sexually explicit scenario.
Okay. Horrible thought.
That single piece of synthetic media would function as a devastating, multi-pronged weapon. Primarily, it's political warfare, right? Designed to destroy her reputation, undermine her credibility, effectively derail her campaign, potentially swing an election.
Okay, political harm.
Concurrently, it's a grave act of personal harassment and non-consensual pornography, inflicting profound, lasting psychological trauma on the individual.
Personal violation.
And furthermore, the malicious creators could readily leverage the existence of this video for financial extortion, attempting to blackmail the candidate or her party for a substantial payment to prevent its release or further spread.
So political, personal, and financial, all in one fake video.
Exactly. This convergence creates a truly frightening threat multiplication effect. The total impact is exponentially greater than if each type of attack occurred in isolation.
And our current defenses might not be set up for that.
Precisely. This has profound implications for how we approach governance and defense. Siloed legal frameworks like a law targeting only election interference or one focused solely on revenge porn will inevitably prove inadequate. They fail to address the full, multifaceted scope of the harm caused by such complex hybrid attacks. Effective defense and regulation, therefore, demand a holistic understanding that explicitly recognizes and anticipates the interconnected nature of these deepfake threats.
Okay, so beyond the immediate tangible harms we've discussed, the political interference, the fraud, the horrific personal attacks, the report talks about a deeper, maybe more systemic wound that deepfakes inflict on society as a whole. The erosion of shared reality. This must be hitting cornerstone institutions like journalism particularly hard, right?
It's nothing short of an existential crisis for journalism, absolutely. The news media, which serves as such an indispensable cornerstone of an informed, functioning democracy, it faces an unprecedented challenge when the fundamental principle that seeing and hearing are believing is shattered.
The very basis of reporting.
The very foundations of objective journalism, the admissibility of digital evidence in court, the possibility of a cohesive democratic discourse, they're all fundamentally threatened.
How does it play out?
Well, as the public becomes increasingly aware of how sophisticated deepfakes can be, a pervasive, corrosive skepticism extends to all forms of digital media, regardless of its source. Viewers, readers, we all start to question the authenticity of everything we see and hear.
Even from trusted sources.
Yes, leading to a precipitous decline in trust for even established, reputable news organizations. That 2024 Pindrop Security Survey you mentioned earlier, a record 39% of respondents reported having no trust in media at all. That's a truly alarming figure.
Almost 4 in 10 people.
And this widespread doubt actively fuels this post-truth environment where objective facts are increasingly treated as negotiable, subjective. Individuals are far more likely to just retreat into their own insular ideological bubbles, trusting only information that perfectly aligns with their pre-existing biases.
Echo chambers get reinforced.
Exactly. And deepfakes act as incredibly potent vectors for misinformation. They place an unprecedented, often overwhelming burden on journalists and professional fact-checkers. It becomes incredibly difficult, resource-intensive, to definitively distinguish authentic media from highly sophisticated forgeries.
Especially when things go viral instantly.
Right. The challenge is exacerbated when fabricated content goes viral at lightning speed. It forces newsrooms into this reactive, exhausting posture of constantly debunking falsehoods that have already spread widely and entrenched themselves in public consciousness.
They're always playing catch-up.
And because deepfakes directly appeal to our primal senses, sight and sound, they can be significantly more persuasive, more emotionally resonant, more cognitively impactful than just text-based falsehoods.
They feel more real.
Fabricated content, like that viral AI-generated image of an explosion near the Pentagon.
Right, that caused a brief market dip.
Exactly. Or a convincing deepfake video of a political leader making a false announcement. These things can rapidly manipulate public sentiment, fuel dangerous conspiracy theories, and even trigger immediate, severe, real-world consequences, stock market fluctuations, civil unrest, often before the truth can possibly be established and widely disseminated.
That paints a really stark picture of a fragmented reality. But here's where it gets even more insidious, something truly unsettling that you touched on earlier. The report introduces this concept called the liar's dividend. What exactly does that mean for us and for our ability to hold anyone accountable for anything?
This is a critical second-order effect, and it's something we all really need to be acutely aware of. The term was powerfully coined by law professors Bobby Chesney and Daniel Citron. And it describes how the very public awareness of deepfakes can be weaponized by malicious actors to evade accountability for their genuinely real actions.
How's that work?
The mechanism is simple, yet incredibly powerful and destructive. As the public learns that audio and video can be convincingly faked, it becomes far more plausible for a dishonest individual to dismiss authentic, incriminating evidence, real evidence, by falsely claiming that it is, in fact, a deepfake.
So that video of me isn't real, it's a deepfake.
Exactly. In an information environment already saturated with distrust, this tactic provides a convenient, technologically grounded, seemingly legitimate excuse for denying inconvenient or damaging truths. It allows unscrupulous public figures, corporate executives, even individuals caught in compromising situations to potentially maintain public support and avoid consequences, even in the face of genuine scandals, damning leaked recordings, or other damaging but verifiably real information.
And this isn't just theoretical.
No, it's playing out in real time. Research increasingly shows that confirmation bias plays a profoundly significant role here.
How so?
Individuals are often strongly inclined to use the term deepfake as a convenient catch-all dismissal for any information that contradicts their existing beliefs or portrays their preferred political figures or trusted entities in a negative light.
So you use it to dismiss things you don't want to believe anyway.
Precisely. The mere possibility of deepfakes existing is enough to pollute the entire information environment. It provides perfect cover for liars and accelerates societal polarization into separate, often irreconcilable realities.
So if a politician is caught on tape saying something terrible,
they can just cry deepfake. And their supporters, already motivated to disbelieve the negative information, will readily seize upon that explanation. It's a simple, compelling, technologically convenient justification to maintain their allegiance despite objective evidence. The liar's dividend thus provides a powerful, dangerous tool for reinforcing partisan biases and rejecting objective reality.
Okay, so it's not just about the external impact of deepfakes on institutions like journalism or politics.
Yeah.
They really mess with our individual heads too, don't they? The report talks about the profound psychological and cognitive impacts.
They absolutely do, and in deeply unsettling ways. For direct victims, particularly in that horrific context of non-consensual deepfake pornography, the psychological trauma is immense, often profound, distressingly long-lasting.
We talked about the humiliation, shame, anxiety.
Yes. Intense humiliation, overwhelming shame, pervasive anxiety, deep depression, severe social withdrawal. The feeling of violation is incredibly profound, even when they intellectually know the content is fabricated. And remember that significant barrier to recovery.
The fear of not being believed.
Exactly. By family, employers, law enforcement, it tragically prevents victims from seeking the crucial help and support they desperately need.
But it affects the general public too, even if we're not direct victims.
Yes. Even for the general public, deepfakes have a disturbing ability to influence our memory and belief, even if the deepfake is later thoroughly debunked.
Wow.
Research has shown that even brief exposure to a deepfake can subtly plant false memories of an event or statement in a person's mind. It can unconsciously affect their subsequent attitudes and decisions.
So you might misremember something because you saw a fake video of it.
Potentially, yes. People's opinions of a public figure, for example, can be swayed simply by their interaction with a digital replica. It shows the psychological impact can persist long after it's been explicitly debunked.
And how good are we actually at spotting these fakes?
Well, what's particularly fascinating and concerning here is that research consistently shows humans are actually quite poor at detecting deepfakes on our own.
Really? Even if we know about them?
A pre-registered behavioral experiment, for instance, found that people cannot reliably distinguish deepfakes from authentic videos, and that neither raising general awareness of deepfakes nor providing financial incentives significantly improves their detection accuracy.
So knowing about it doesn't really help us spot them better.
Not significantly, according to that study. And it revealed two critical cognitive biases that make us inherently vulnerable.
What are they?
First, people tend to significantly overestimate their own ability to spot fakes. We think we're better at it than we are.
Okay, overconfidence.
Second, we are statistically more inclined to mistake a deepfake for an authentic video than vice versa.
So we're more likely to believe a fake is real.
Than to think a real video is fake. Yes. This inherent cognitive vulnerability on a mass scale makes us highly susceptible to deception. And it starkly underscores the inadequacy of relying solely on individual discernment as our primary line of defense. We're just not naturally equipped for this.
Okay, given this immense, multifaceted threat, there must be a huge, concerted push to develop robust detection methods. How are scientists and engineers on the front lines actually trying to spot these increasingly sophisticated fakes? It sounds like a massive challenge.
It is indeed a high-stakes, rapidly evolving technological arms race, absolutely. The report details several key strategies that researchers and developers are employing right now.
What are some of the main approaches?
Well, many sophisticated detectors function by meticulously analyzing media for subtle, often imperceptible inconsistencies. Spatial analysis is one.
What did that involve?
Examining individual image frames for digital artifacts that might portray manipulation. Things like unnatural lighting or shadows that don't match the scene. Subtly blurry edges around a manipulated face, or unnaturally malformed features like strangely shaped ears, teeth, even the reflections in someone's eyes.
Tiny details.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then there's temporal analysis. That focuses on inconsistencies across a sequence of frames in a video.
How things change over time.
Right. Deepfakes often struggle to perfectly replicate the highly nuanced, natural, subtle movements of a human. This can lead to detectable anomalies like unnatural blinking patterns, maybe too much, maybe too little, maybe an eerie, complete lack of blinking, or imperfect lip sync that doesn't quite match the audio track precisely.
Okay, so looking frame by frame and over time. What else?
Some of the more advanced models operate in the frequency domain.
Frequency domain. Sounds technical.
It is a bit. They identify high-frequency noise patterns or other microscopic artifacts that are characteristic of the deepfake generation process itself, but are entirely invisible to the naked human eye. Models like FFD and UCF leverage this by analyzing the underlying digital signal.
Looking for patterns we can't see.
Essentially, yes. What's particularly promising and a growing area of focus is the shift towards multimodal detection.
Multimodal, meaning multiple types of data.
Exactly, where sophisticated systems simultaneously analyze different channels of information like the video stream and the accompanying audio track, searching for incongruities.
Give me an example.
Okay, a detector might identify a mismatch between the emotional tone conveyed in a person's voice, maybe they sound angry, and the neutral or inconsistent facial expression on their deepfake face. That mismatch is a strong indicator of manipulation.
The face doesn't match the voice. Makes sense.
And finally, perhaps the most strategic shift we're seeing is toward content provenance and watermarking. This represents a proactive defense rather than a reactive one.
Proactive how?
This approach involves embedding a secure, often cryptographic digital watermark or signature directly into media at the very moment of its creation.
Like a digital fingerprint.
Exactly. It creates a verifiable chain of custody that can prove authenticity later on. Initiatives like the Coalition for Content Provenance and Authenticity, C2PA, are working to create an industry-wide open standard for this. And tools like Google's SynthID aim to implement it by embedding imperceptible watermarks directly into AI-generated images, essentially marking them as artificial right from birth.
So you know if it came from an AI from the start. That sounds promising.
It's a key part of the puzzle.
Okay, so it sounds like we have a lot of sophisticated tools in development or already being used, but it's clearly not a magic bullet, is it? What are the biggest challenges, the limitations these detection systems face in the real world?
This raises a really important question, and the report is quite candid, quite frank, about the severe limitations and inherent challenges in this detection arms race.
Such as?
Well, the generalization problem is critical, perhaps the most persistent hurdle.
What does it mean?
Detection models are typically trained on specific data sets containing fakes created by a known set of deepfake generation algorithms, right? However, these models frequently fail dramatically when they're confronted with deepfakes created using new, unseen techniques or by different generative models they haven't been trained on.
So they only recognize the fakes they already know.
Pretty much. This creates a perpetual arms race dynamic. As soon as a reliable detector for one type of fake is developed, deepfake creators simply modify or evolve their generation methods to evade it. It renders the detector obsolete, forcing this constant, exhausting game of catch-up.
Always one step behind.
Often, yes. Another significant challenge is dataset quality and availability. The performance of any machine learning model is inherently contingent on the quality, the diversity, the sheer volume of its training data.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Exactly. The deepfake detection field is hampered by a scarcity of large, truly diverse, accurately labeled datasets that reflect the vast array of real-world deepfakes you actually encounter. Many publicly available datasets, while useful for research, contain fakes with obvious visual flaws that are relatively easy to detect in a lab setting. This leads to inflated performance metrics in papers that just don't translate to real-world effectiveness.
So lab results look better than reality.
Often, significantly so.
And I've heard quite a bit recently about algorithmic bias in AI systems generally. Is that a factor here too? Could it potentially impact how well these deepfake detectors work for different groups of people?
What's particularly concerning here, and a critical limitation highlighted by the report, is absolutely the presence of algorithmic bias. Deepfake detectors have indeed been shown to inherit, and in some cases, even amplify biases present in their training data.
Leading to what?
Leading to significant disparities in performance across different demographic groups. For example, a rigorous study from the University at Buffalo found that a state-of-the-art detection algorithm was far more likely to misclassify real faces of Black men as fake.
Real faces flagged as fake.
Yes, exhibiting a 39.1% error rate for that demographic, compared to real faces of white women, which had a much lower 15.6% error rate.
That's a huge difference and dangerous.
Absolutely. This kind of inherent bias not only undermines the overall reliability of these detection tools, but also poses a serious risk of disproportionate harm to marginalized communities, potentially leading to misidentification, false accusations.
Right. And finally, any other major limitations?
Well, there's the issue of interpretability and ambiguity in the outputs. Many detection tools provide just a simple binary classification, real or fake, or maybe a probabilistic score, like 70% likely to be fake.
Okay, what's the problem with that?
For crucial end users, think journalists under deadline, law enforcement investigating a crime, corporate security teams making quick decisions, such outputs are often difficult to interpret and act upon definitively. Without further explanation or contextual nuance, it can lead to more confusion than clarity and really hinder rapid, accurate response.
So it's not just a conventional arms race where the fakers are constantly evolving their techniques to stay ahead. It sounds like there are even direct attacks being launched against the detectors themselves, specifically designed to blind them.
That's absolutely correct. And it adds another treacherous layer to this already complex arms race. The report highlights the growing threat of adversarial attacks.
Adversarial attacks on the detectors.
Yes, where malicious actors intentionally introduce tiny, almost imperceptible perturbations or modifications to a fake video or image.
Changes we wouldn't notice.
Exactly. While the modified media still looks like a perfectly convincing deep fake to a human observer, these subtle changes are meticulously engineered to exploit specific vulnerabilities in a detector's underlying algorithm. The goal: causing it to misclassify the fake video as real.
Tricking the detector.
Precisely. These attacks can be conducted in a white box setting, where the attacker has full knowledge of the detector's architecture and parameters, making it easier to craft precise attacks. Or in a more challenging black box setting, where the attacker can only query the model for its output without knowing its internal workings, still trying to find those tiny weaknesses.
So they can attack even without knowing how the detector works internally.
It's harder, but yes, it's possible. This means that building a robust deepfake detector isn't enough. It has to be specifically designed and tested to be resilient against these highly targeted offensive techniques, which just underscores the report's crucial conclusion. A purely technical solution, based solely on detection, is by its very nature a strategic trap.
Why a trap?
Because relying exclusively on some magic bullet detector is destined to fail. It will always be at least one step behind the latest generation techniques and perpetually vulnerable to these direct, cunning attacks.
So what does this all mean for us, then? If purely technical detection isn't enough to stem this tide, what's the answer? What's the more holistic approach the report advocates for?
The report is unequivocally clear on this. A purely technical solution is a strategic trap and is ultimately destined to fail in the long run. The most promising, the most resilient path forward lies in what they term a socio-technical approach.
Socio-technical, meaning?
Meaning that while technical tools like advanced detectors are essential maybe as a first-pass filter to flag suspicious content,
Okay.
they absolutely must be integrated into a much broader, multi-layered defense strategy. This strategy necessitates robust content provenance mechanisms where media is authenticated at its source. It requires the integration of human-in-the-loop systems.
People involved in the decision.
Yes, where experts like journalists, analysts, content moderators apply their crucial contextual judgment for final decisions. And perhaps most critically, it requires cultivating a resilient and educated public through widespread, proactive media literacy initiatives.
So tech plus provenance plus human experts plus public education.
Exactly. That, according to the report, is the ultimate line of defense. This comprehensive strategy would prioritize proactive measures like content provenance and authentication standards to secure media right at its source, allowing us to trust the origin of content rather than solely relying on reactive post-hoc forensics to identify fakes after they've already caused harm.
It's encouraging at least to know there's a huge ecosystem of organizations and initiatives fighting this battle on multiple fronts. Who are some of the big players involved, and what specific contributions are they making?
There is indeed a massive collaborative effort underway globally. It's quite impressive. On the government research side, the U.S. Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA, is a leading force.
DARPA.
Their Media Forensics Metaphor program, which started back in 2015, focuses on the automated assessment of digital media integrity. And the follow-on Semantic Forensics Semaphore program aims to detect fakes by identifying higher-level semantic inconsistencies, anomalies in meaning, context, logic that subtle pixel-level analysis might miss.
Looking beyond just the pixels.
Exactly. Major tech companies are heavily involved, too. Microsoft has developed their video authenticator tool. Intel created its fake catcher technology. Google is pioneering content provenance with its SynthID watermarking tool, embedding those imperceptible digital watermarks directly into AI-generated images to signal their artificial origin.
So the big tech firms are working on it.
They are. University research labs are also critical hubs of innovation. For instance, Northwestern University's Security and AI Lab launched the Global Online Deepfake Detection System, GODS, specifically designed to help journalists rapidly assess media authenticity. Researchers at the University at Buffalo are leading cutting-edge efforts to understand and mitigate that algorithmic bias we talked about.
Right, the bias issue.
And to spur further innovation and collaboration, you've had industry-led initiatives like the Facebook Deepfake Detection Challenge, DFDC. Though, interestingly, even the winning model in that challenge only achieved around 65% accuracy.
65%.
Yeah.
That really underscores how hard this is.
It absolutely does. In parallel, a vibrant commercial market has emerged. Companies like Reality Defender, Sensity, DuckDuckGoose, they're offering sophisticated, enterprise-grade deepfake detection platforms to governments, financial institutions, media organizations worldwide. It's truly a global, multi-stakeholder effort, recognizing that no single entity can tackle this challenge alone.
Okay, so having covered the threat, the underlying tech, and the detection efforts, what does this all mean for how we actually govern and regulate this rapidly advancing technology? The report paints a picture of a really fragmented global response, doesn't it? It sounds like there's no single unified rulebook yet.
That's fascinating here, and indeed a major challenge. There is currently no single universally adopted framework. The legal and regulatory response to deepfakes varies significantly across jurisdictions, creating a complex, often inconsistent global landscape.
How does the report categorize the different approaches?
Broadly, it contrasts the more fragmented, harm-specific model you see primarily in the United States,
Okay.
with the more comprehensive, transparency-focused model emerging from the European Union.
Let's start with the U.S. fragmented and harm-specific.
Yes. In the U.S., there isn't one overarching federal law that comprehensively regulates deepfakes across the board. Instead, the approach is more of a patchwork. New, targeted legislation aimed at specific harms, plus the creative application of existing laws.
What's the most significant federal action so far?
That would be the Take I Down Act, which was signed into law in 2025. This bipartisan bill specifically makes it a federal crime to create or share non-consensual sexually explicit images, importantly, whether they are real or digitally manipulated, like deepfakes.
Okay, targeting the pornographic deepfake specifically.
Yes. And crucially, it also mandates that online platforms establish a clear process to remove such content within 48 hours of being notified.
Putting responsibility on the platforms for takedowns.
Exactly. Other proposals, like the Deepfakes Accountability Act, have been introduced to address issues like election integrity and national security, but they haven't yet been enacted into law. Federal agencies like the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, can also leverage their existing authority to combat unfair or deceptive acts, which can include deepfakes used specifically for financial fraud.
And what about the states? Are they doing anything?
Yes. In the absence of comprehensive federal action, numerous U.S. states have stepped in and passed their own laws. These typically focus on either non-consensual pornography. States like California, Virginia, New York, Texas have laws on this, or election interference, where states like California, Minnesota, Washington have introduced laws requiring disclaimers on, or sometimes outright banning, deceptive deepfakes used in political advertising, especially close to an election. But these state laws vary widely in scope, in enforcement, creating a highly inconsistent legal landscape for individuals and platforms operating across state lines.
Okay, so a very reactive, targeted approach in the U.S., focusing mostly on specific harms like non-consensual porn or election interference. How does that compare to the European Union? You said they take a much broader, more proactive stance.
The EU has indeed taken a much broader, more proactive, and fundamentally comprehensive approach. They've embedded deepfake regulation right within their landmark AI legislation.
The EU AI Act.
Exactly. It's a groundbreaking piece of regulation that establishes a stringent, risk-based framework for all artificial intelligence systems. Under this framework, deepfakes are generally classified as limited risk systems.
Limited risk. That seems low.
Well, that classification comes with strict transparency obligations. Specifically, under Article 52, any user of an AI system that generates or manipulates image, audio, or video content that appreciably resembles existing persons or events and would falsely appear, authentic, or truthful, must clearly and conspicuously disclose that the content has been artificially generated or manipulated.
So basically label it as AI generated.
Yes. Providers of these powerful generative AI models must also ensure their outputs are marked in a machine-readable format, making it easier for other systems to automatically identify them as AI-generated. This creates a baseline requirement for labeling across a huge range of uses, regardless of the immediate intent behind it.
And there's another EU law involved.
Yes, the Digital Services Act, DSA, works in tandem with the AI Act. It imposes extensive obligations on very large online platforms to assess and mitigate systemic risks, including the widespread dissemination of disinformation, which explicitly encompasses harmful deepfakes. This dual-pronged approach aims to address both the creation and the propagation of synthetic media.
Wow, that's a huge difference in the underlying philosophy, isn't it? One focusing mostly on harm after the fact, the other mandating transparency right from the start. What about other key nations around the world? Is there any emerging consensus, or is it just these two models?
What's truly fascinating here is the global divergence in these regulatory philosophies. It's not just the US and EU. Take China, for example. They've implemented some of the world's strictest, most encompassing regulations.
How so?
Their provisions on the administration of deep synthesis internet information services not only require mandatory conspicuous labeling or watermarking of all AI-generated content.
All of it.
All of it. But crucially, the rules also mandate that service providers verify the real identities of users.
Real ID for using deepfake tools.
Essentially, yes. It creates a system of traceability, a kind of digital accountability, designed to deter anonymous misuse and identify the source of harmful deepfakes.
Okay, that's strict. What about the UK?
In the United Kingdom, the Online Safety Act of 2023 is another significant piece of legislation. It requires online platforms to proactively find and remove illegal content, and it explicitly includes non-consensual deepfake pornography as a form of illegal content that platforms must address.
Similar focus on the pornographic harm.
Yes. And both South Korea and Japan have also passed laws that specifically criminalize the creation and distribution of deepfakes, again with a strong focus on non-consensual, sexually explicit content, and also content that could cause harm to public interest.
So this global divergence,
Yeah.
U.S. harm-based versus EU transparency-based,
Yeah.
that must create problems.
Absolutely. This global divergence creates a significant friction and poses immense challenges. A political deepfake used for defamation, for example, might not violate a specific U.S. law if it isn't pornographic or directly tied to electioneering.
Right.
But its creation would be subject to strict transparency rules in the EU, regardless of its content. This forces global platforms into an incredibly difficult position. They have to navigate and comply with conflicting legal paradigms across different regions.
And loopholes emerge.
Exactly. This regulatory fragmentation can be, and often is, exploited by malicious actors. They might strategically choose to operate from jurisdictions with laxer or more specific laws, knowing that cross-border enforcement for digital crimes is notoriously difficult and slow. This just underscores the critical need for much greater international cooperation to establish baseline standards and effectively close the governance gaps that the borderless nature of the internet inevitably creates.
Yeah, the internet doesn't respect borders. Okay, so platforms, especially the big social media giants, they're really caught in the middle here, aren't they? They're the primary vectors for deepfake spread. But what are the immense challenges they face in actually moderating this content effectively at scale?
What's fascinating here is just the sheer scale and complexity of the moderation problem.
Yeah.
Social media platforms are, undeniably, the primary vectors for the viral spread of deepfakes. It places them squarely at the center of the debate over content control, corporate responsibility.
Right.
And while major platforms like Meta, Facebook, Instagram, X, formerly Twitter, YouTube, they all have established policies that prohibit or restrict certain types of manipulated media.
They have rules on the books.
Yes, but the actual enforcement of these policies remains frustratingly inconsistent and fraught with immense challenges.
Like what? Why is it so hard?
Well, one major challenge is simply the inherent difficulty of moderation at such an unprecedented scale. Automated detection systems, as we discussed, they're imperfect. They can be easily evaded by rapidly evolving deepfake techniques, and they often struggle with nuanced context.
The algorithms aren't enough.
No. This necessitates the crucial but often overlooked use of human content moderators to make the subtle, contextualized decisions that algorithms just cannot.
But human moderation has its own problems.
It's far from a panacea. These roles come with their own challenges, including the potential for cognitive and identity-based biases in flagging content, which can lead to errors, like incorrectly flagging a real profile of someone from a minority group as being artificial.
Oh, wow. Bias in the moderators, too.
And furthermore, the psychological toll on these human moderators, who are repeatedly exposed to graphic, violent, highly disturbing content, including sexually explicit deepfakes. It's immense.
I can only imagine.
This exposure leads to alarming rates of burnout, severe emotional distress, even PTSD. It makes it difficult to retain experienced staff.
And there's a legal issue in the U.S. specifically. Section 230.
Yes, in the U.S., Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act adds another layer of complexity. This piece of legislation generally shields online platforms from liability for content posted by their users. Historically, this has made it incredibly difficult for victims of harmful deepfakes to hold platforms legally accountable for the spread of that content, often forcing victims to pursue the often anonymous perpetrators directly, which is incredibly hard.
So platforms aren't legally responsible for the fakes posted on them.
Generally speaking, Section 230 provides significant protection. While the new Take It Down Act tries to address this specifically for non-consensual deepfakes by empowering the FTC to enforce specific takedown requirements, it attempts to work around Section 230 rather than amending it directly. It illustrates the legal tightrope platforms have to walk.
Okay, so what does all of this mean for us, the individual listener, trying to navigate this world? Beyond the technical solutions and the complex, fragmented legal frameworks, the report points to one crucial, perhaps the most crucial, line of defense. Us, the public. It really comes down to foundational ethics and public literacy, doesn't it?
This raises an important question, and it's perhaps the core challenge for our society moving forward. Underpinning all the legal and policy debates are these fundamental ethical considerations. The core ethical dilemma of deepfake technology is really the profound need to balance the immense potential for creative expression and groundbreaking innovation.
The good uses we talked about.
Right, against the equally profound, often devastating potential for harm and misuse.
What are the key ethical principles the report highlights?
Firstly, consent. The unauthorized use of a person's likeness, their voice, is a fundamental violation of their personal autonomy and identity. A survey highlighted in the report indicated that 85% of participants believed obtaining informed consent is a critical ethical requirement for using someone's digital likeness.
Overwhelming support for consent.
Secondly, privacy and authenticity. Deepfakes fundamentally challenge our deeply ingrained right to privacy and the integrity of our own identity. They erode trust by creating a world where an individual's actual words, actual actions can be convincingly fabricated, leading to malicious character assassination, irreparable reputational ruin, often without recourse.
And accountability.
Yes, finally, accountability. There's a strong ethical imperative to hold the creators of malicious deepfakes and potentially the developers of the powerful tools that enable them accountable for the foreseeable harms their actions or products may cause, pushing for a greater sense of digital responsibility.
But beyond these big principles, you mentioned public literacy.
Yes. The report strongly, repeatedly advocates for widespread public education and robust media literacy, given the inherent limitations of both purely technical detection and the ongoing challenges of legal enforcement. Public literacy emerges as a critical, almost paramount third pillar of defense.
So educating ourselves is key.
It's about empowering you, the listener, to actively think critically about the media you consume every single day, to constantly question sources, to learn to look for subtle signs of manipulation, and to deeply understand the nature and the implications of the deepfake threat. These educational initiatives are absolutely essential for cultivating a more discerning, more resilient, and less susceptible citizenry. That, according to the report, is the ultimate and probably the most sustainable line of defense against the widespread insidious effects of deepfake deception. #tag outro.
Wow, what an absolutely essential deep dive into a truly defining issue of our digital age. We've really seen how deepfakes, from their highly sophisticated technical underpinnings and things like GANs and diffusion models, are rapidly reshaping everything from the integrity of our elections to the security of our financial systems and, most tragically, the personal safety and dignity of individuals.
Indeed. And perhaps most critically, we've explored how they're insidiously corroding our collective trust in reality itself, amplified by these troubling phenomena like the liar's dividend, where the very awareness of deepfakes can actually be weaponized against truth.
Yeah.
It's abundantly clear, isn't it, that neither purely technical detection solutions nor purely legal frameworks are sufficient on their own to address this multi-layered threat. The report unequivocally highlights that deepfakes are a paradigm-shifting threat, weaponized across multiple domains, political, financial, deeply personal, causing a systemic erosion of trust, facing a complex, never-ending detection arms race, and therefore demanding a multi-layered, inherently socio-technical, and globally coordinated response.
So what does all of this mean for you, the individual listener, trying to navigate this increasingly complex digital landscape? This report isn't just about identifying problems. It's crucially about charting a path toward comprehensive solutions.
That's right.
It calls for a hybrid, harmonized global regulatory model for technology companies to prioritize proactive content authentication and implement truly responsible AI deployment practices. It urges platforms to significantly invest in augmented human-in-the-loop moderation systems, blending the best of AI with essential human judgment. But perhaps most importantly, as you just said, it powerfully highlights our collective role in this defense.
Yes, your active role as a discerning, critically thinking consumer of information is absolutely vital. It truly is. It's about building a collective societal resilience through consistent critical thinking and widespread media literacy. The report stresses that effectively defending the integrity of our fragile information ecosystem, rebuilding trust, requires a shared whole-of-society commitment from all of us.
Meaning everyone has a part to play.
Exactly. Policymakers need to adopt that hybrid, harmonized regulatory model, champion international norms to close those cross-border loopholes. Technology and media executives need to fundamentally shift their focus from reactive detection to proactive authentication, make sustained investments in that augmented human moderation. Ultimately, it's about a shared commitment from all of us, governments, industry, and individual citizens, to defend the integrity of our information ecosystem and hopefully restore the very foundations of digital trust.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I'm just left thinking about the sheer audacity of this challenge. In a world where seeing and hearing are quite literally no longer believing, How do we collectively decide what is genuinely real anymore? And maybe more profoundly, how do we ensure that our shared understanding of reality doesn't just completely fragment into 1,000 different irreconcilable versions of the truth?
That raises perhaps the most fundamental question, doesn't it? And it's truly the core challenge of our digital age. Can we actively rebuild and steadfastly maintain the foundations of digital trust? Not just through advanced technology and robust law, but through a renewed, profound societal commitment to diligently verifying information and consistently valuing objective truth, even when that truth is inconvenient or uncomfortable. That's something profound, I think, for you to mull over until our next deep dive into the complex issues shaping our world.